I never thought the truth would come out the same week we buried him. My hands were still shaking when I stood in front of the small metal box on the kitchen table. It was old, scratched, dented on one side. It smelled like dust and time. The kind of smell that tells you something has been hidden for a long, long while. Inside that box was a single key. And the moment I saw it, my heart dropped. Because I knew that key. It was the same key he took with him every single Tuesday for 38 years. Before I tell you what I found, before I tell you why that key changed everything I thought I knew about my marriage, let me ask you something. If someone you loved disappeared every week without fail, never explained why, never missed a single Tuesday, would you ask questions? Or would you stay silent, like I did? If you are watching this right now, please take a second to subscribe, like this video, and turn on your notifications. Stories like this are real. They are painful. And they deserve to be heard. Also, let me know in the comments where you are watching from. I want to know I am not alone tonight. Because for 38 years, I lived beside a man I did not truly know. The most shocking moment didn't happen when he died. It happened 3 days after the funeral. I was alone in the house. The house felt empty in a way I had never felt before. His shoes were still by the door. His jacket still hung behind the bedroom door. His mug was still in the sink, like he might come back and ask why I hadn't washed it yet. That was when I noticed the box. It was hidden behind the cleaning supplies, pushed far back in the cabinet he never let me touch. Inside were old bank slips. Dozens of them. No, hundreds. All stamped with the same date. Every Tuesday. My chest tightened. I sat on the floor and started reading. Same bank. Same branch. Same time window. Over and over again. For 38 years. I whispered out loud. Why? That was when my phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. It said only this. Do not go to the bank. I froze. Let me take you back to the beginning. I met him when I was young and hopeful and believed love fixed everything. He was quiet. Reliable. The kind of man who paid bills on time and never raised his voice. People said I was lucky. And I believed them. Every Tuesday, he woke up early, put on the same gray jacket, picked up his keys, and said the same words. I'll be back soon. He never let me come with him. Not once. At first, I thought it was work. Then I thought it was habit. Then, after a few years, I stopped asking. Marriage teaches you how to ignore the small questions so you can survive the big ones. But deep down, something always felt wrong. Some Tuesdays, he came home quiet. Some Tuesdays, his eyes were red. Some Tuesdays, his hands shook when he ate dinner. Once, I asked him gently, "Are you okay?" He smiled and said, "Just tired." That smile haunted me at the funeral. After his death, people kept telling me, he was a good man. But good men don't leave this many secrets behind. I decided to go to the bank. I needed answers. I needed to know why my husband walked into that building every Tuesday for almost 4 decades. I picked up my bag. I picked up the key. And just as I reached the door, my phone rang again. Same number. This time, a voice message. Shaking. Urgent. A woman's voice whispered. If you go there, everything you believe will be destroyed. I stood there, heart pounding, key clenched in my hand, knowing one thing for sure. The truth was waiting for me at that bank. And once I walked through those doors, there would be no going back. I stood by the door for a long time after the voice message ended. The house was silent. Too silent. The key felt heavy in my hand, like it was pulling me somewhere I wasn't ready to go. My heart beat so hard I could hear it in my ears. The warning replayed in my mind again and again. If you go there, everything you believe will be destroyed. I whispered to myself. Destroyed how? No one answered. I locked the door and sat on the couch, holding the key like it might suddenly speak. For years, I had lived beside a man who kept his pain hidden behind quiet smiles. Now he was gone, and his silence had become my burden. I tried to tell myself to let it go. He was dead. What good could the truth do now? But the bank slips were still spread across the kitchen table. Every one of them felt like a finger pointing at me, accusing me of choosing comfort over truth. That night, I did not sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him putting on that gray jacket. I heard his voice saying, "I'll be back soon." I saw his back as he walked away from me, again and again, every Tuesday. By morning, I had made my decision. I was going to the bank. If the truth hurt, then so be it. I had lived too long not knowing. I dressed slowly, choosing simple clothes, like I was trying not to attract attention. As I stood in front of the mirror, I barely recognized the woman looking back at me. My eyes were tired, older. But there was something else there now. Resolve. The drive to the bank felt longer than usual. Every red light made my stomach twist. Every car behind me felt too close. I kept checking my mirrors, half expecting someone to follow me. The bank building came into view. It was smaller than I imagined. Old bricks. Faded sign. The kind of place people passed without noticing. My hands started to shake as I parked the car. "This is it," I whispered. I stepped out and walked toward the doors. That was when I felt it. That feeling you get when something is very wrong. The doors opened with a soft sound, and cool air rushed over my skin. The smell of paper and polish filled my nose. Everything looked normal. Too normal. People stood in line. A teller laughed softly with a customer. A man filled out a form at a small desk. I almost turned around. Then I remembered the key. I walked to the counter and cleared my throat. "I need information about an account," I said quietly. The teller looked at me. Her smile faded just a little when she saw the key in my hand. "Is this about him?" she asked. My heart stopped. "You know him," I whispered. She glanced around, then leaned closer. "Please take a seat. Someone will speak with you." That was not the answer I expected. I sat down, my knees weak. People passed by, unaware that my whole life was about to change. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, a man approached me. He was older, with kind eyes and a serious face. "Please come with me," he said. We walked down a narrow hallway to a small office. The door closed behind us with a soft click that sounded far too loud. He sat across from me and folded his hands. "I'm sorry for your loss," he said gently. "Thank you," I replied, my voice barely steady. He took a deep breath. "There are things you need to know," he said. "Things your husband made me promise to keep secret. Until today." My chest tightened. "Secret from who?" I asked. "From you," he said quietly. The room felt smaller. The air felt heavier. "For 38 years, he continued, your husband came here every Tuesday not to deposit money, but to withdraw it." I frowned. Withdraw it? For what? He slid a folder across the desk toward me. Inside were documents. Dates. Signatures. Numbers so large they made my head spin. "He was paying for something," the man said. "No," I whispered. "He didn't spend money. He was careful. He hated waste." The man nodded. "That's what made this so hard to watch." "Watch what?" I asked. He hesitated. "Watch him carry guilt," he said. "Every single Tuesday." I felt tears burn behind my eyes. "What guilt?" The man looked at the door, then back at me. "Before I tell you," he said slowly, "you need to understand this." He leaned forward. "Your husband did not come here alone all those years." My stomach dropped. "Who came with him?" I asked. "A child," he said. I stared at him, unable to breathe. "That's not possible," I said. "We didn't have children." He nodded. I know. My hands trembled. Then whose child? He opened the folder again and showed me a photograph. It was old and faded. It showed my husband standing beside a small boy. The boy held his hand tightly, like he was afraid to let go. The boy looked sick, thin, weak. But his eyes looked just like my husband's. I covered my mouth to stop myself from screaming. No, I whispered. No, no, no. The man spoke softly. Your husband believed this was the only way to protect you. Protect me from what? I cried. Before he could answer, there was a knock on the door. Sharp. Urgent. The man stiffened. Another voice came through the door. Sir, you need to see this. The man stood quickly. Please stay here, he told me. He opened the door just enough to step outside. I sat frozen, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. Voices whispered in the hallway. Then I heard words that made my blood run cold. She's here. Another voice replied. She was warned not to come. My hands clenched into fists. Warned. Before I could stand, the door opened again. But it was not the man who returned. It was a woman. She looked at me with fear in her eyes. The same fear I had heard in the voice message. She whispered, barely moving her lips. You should have listened. And behind her, someone else was standing in the hallway, watching me. The woman stood in the doorway, her hand gripping the doorframe like she might fall if she let go. Her face was pale. Her lips were shaking. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Behind her, I could still see the hallway. And behind the hallway, a shadow. A person standing just far enough away that I could not see their face clearly. My heart slammed against my chest. You should have listened, the woman whispered again. Who are you? I asked, my voice trembling. She stepped inside and quickly closed the door behind her, locking it with a sharp click. That sound made my stomach twist. She leaned her back against the door like she was trying to hold something out. My name doesn't matter, she said. What matters is that you are not supposed to be here. I stood up slowly. Why? What is going on? What did my husband do? Her eyes filled with tears. What he did, she said softly, was try to fix something that could never truly be fixed. I shook my head. You're not making sense. She took a deep breath, like she was about to tell a story she had kept buried for too long. For 38 years, she began, that man came here carrying a secret that was eating him alive. She looked at the folder on the desk. The photograph. You saw the child, she said. Yes, I replied. Who was he? She closed her eyes for a second. When she opened them again, they were filled with pain. He was your husband's mistake, she said. The words hit me like a slap. No, I said. He loved me. He would never. He loved you, she interrupted. That's why he never told you. My legs felt weak. I sat back down, afraid I would fall. Please, I whispered. Tell me everything. She walked slowly toward the chair across from me and sat down. Many years ago, she said, before you were married, before you even met him, he made a choice. She paused. A terrible one. My heart raced. What kind of choice? He was young, she said. Poor. Desperate. And angry at the world. I clenched my hands. Go on. There was a woman, she continued. She was sick. Very sick. And pregnant. I felt my throat tighten. She begged him for help, the woman said. But he was scared. He ran away. Tears rolled down my face. So the child was abandoned? Yes, she said quietly. And the mother died not long after giving birth. I gasped. The boy grew up in pain, she went on. In hospitals. In care homes. Always sick. Always asking where his father was. I covered my mouth, sobbing silently. And one day, she said, your husband found out. How? I asked. He received a letter, she replied, from a social worker. They told him the child needed treatment. Expensive treatment. She looked straight at me. And that was the first Tuesday he came to this bank. My heart broke open. For 38 years, she said, he paid for that child's medical care. Every week. Without fail. I whispered. Why didn't he bring him home? She shook her head. The boy was very sick. He needed special care. And your husband was terrified. Terrified of what? I asked. Of losing you, she said. The room spun. He believed if you knew, she continued, you would leave him. He believed the truth would destroy everything. I thought of all those Tuesdays. All those quiet dinners. All those times I asked if he was okay. You're wrong, I said through tears. I would have stayed. She smiled sadly. He didn't believe that. I wiped my face. So why warn me now? Why tell me not to come? Her hands started shaking. Because the boy didn't just grow up sick, she said. What do you mean? He grew up angry, she said. The word echoed in my mind. Angry. He knew his father paid for his life, she continued, but never claimed him. My chest tightened. Where is he now? She hesitated. He is alive, she said. And he knows your husband is dead. A cold fear crawled up my spine. And he knows about you, she added. The room went silent. Me? I whispered. Yes, she said. He knows you were the wife. The life he never had. I shook my head. Why would he care about me? Her voice dropped to a whisper. Because, she said, he believes you took his place. My heart stopped. Before I could respond, there was a loud knock on the door. Not gentle. Not polite. Bang, bang, bang. The woman jumped to her feet. He's here, she whispered. Who? I asked, panic rising. The boy, she said. He's not a boy anymore. The door shook again as another knock hit it, harder this time. Open the door, a deep voice called from the hallway. The woman looked at me, fear flooding her face. He followed you, she said. That's why you were warned. My hands trembled. What does he want? She swallowed. He wants the rest of what he believes is his, she said. What rest? I asked. She looked at the key still clutched in my hand. The truth, she whispered. And you. The knocking stopped. Silence filled the room. Then the handle began to turn. The door handle turned slowly. Not violently. Not in anger. Slow. Careful. That was what frightened me the most. The woman pressed her back harder against the desk, her eyes locked on the door like she was staring at a wild animal she knew she could not outrun. Do not say a word, she whispered to me. My throat was dry. I nodded, even though my hands were shaking so badly I had to grip the chair to stay still. The handle stopped moving. Then a soft knock. One single knock. A deep voice followed, calm and steady. I know you're in there. My heart felt like it might burst out of my chest. The woman swallowed and spoke, trying to sound firm. You need to leave. Now. A short laugh came from the other side of the door. I've been leaving my whole life, the voice replied. This time, I'm staying. I felt tears burn in my eyes. This was not how I imagined learning the truth about my husband. This was not how I imagined meeting the child he never claimed. You were told not to come here, the voice said again. But you came anyway. The woman looked at me, her face pale. She didn't know, she said quickly. She just lost her husband. Silence. Then the voice spoke again, softer this time. I lost my father before I ever met him. My chest tightened so hard it hurt. The handle turned again. The door opened. He stepped inside. He was tall. Taller than my husband ever was. His shoulders were wide, his face hard, like life had carved pain into it. His eyes were dark, but not empty. They were full. Full of anger. Full of hurt. Full of questions. Our eyes met. For a second, neither of us moved. I saw it immediately. The shape of his eyes. The line of his jaw. There was no denying it. "You look like him," I whispered before I could stop myself. His mouth tightened. "So I've been told," he said. The woman stepped between us. "You need to calm down." He laughed, sharp and bitter. Calm down? After 38 years of silence. He looked at me again, slowly, like he was studying every part of my face. "So," he said, "you're the wife." The word sounded heavy when he said it. "Yes," I replied quietly. "I am." He nodded once, like he was checking something off in his mind. "You lived in his house," he said. "You slept beside him. You ate dinner with him." I nodded again. "And every Tuesday," he continued, "he left you to come see me." My stomach dropped. "He didn't see you," I said softly. "He paid for your care." His eyes flashed. "Money is not love," he snapped. "I know," I whispered. The room filled with tension so thick it felt hard to breathe. He turned to the woman. "You should have stayed out of this." She lifted her chin. Someone had to tell her the truth. He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "The truth," he repeated. "Which truth?" He stepped closer to me. "The truth that he chose you," he asked. "The truth that he chose comfort over responsibility? The truth that he chose to hide me like a disease?" Tears streamed down my face. "He was afraid," I said. "He was wrong, but he was afraid." He stopped inches away from me. "Fear doesn't erase damage," he said. I looked up at him. "What do you want from me?" For the first time, his face changed. The anger cracked. Just for a moment. "I want to know," he said quietly, "if he ever talked about me." My heart shattered. "No," I said honestly. "He never did." He looked away, his jaw tightening. "I thought so," he muttered. He reached into his jacket and pulled something out. Another envelope. Worn. Creased. Old. "He wrote letters," he said. "Every year." He handed them to me. I took them with shaking hands. "I never opened them," he continued. "I was waiting for the day he would give them to me himself." My voice broke. "Why didn't he?" "Because," he said, "cowards write letters they never plan to send." The words cut deep. I opened the first envelope. Inside was my husband's handwriting. Apologies. Regret. Fear. "I love you," he had written. "But I don't know how to face you." My knees gave out. I sank into the chair, sobbing. "He loved you," I whispered. "In his broken way." The man shook his head. "Love that hides is not enough." The woman stepped forward. "This isn't helping anyone." He looked at her sharply. Neither did silence. He turned back to me. "There's one more thing you don't know," he said. My heart pounded. "What?" He pulled out the key. Not my key. An identical one. "Every Tuesday," he said slowly, "he didn't just come to the bank." My breath caught. "He went somewhere else afterward." "Where?" I whispered. He leaned down, his voice low and steady. "To a place he believed you must never find." The woman gasped. "And now," he said, straightening, "you're going there with me." Fear flooded my body. "I'm not going anywhere," I said. He smiled again. "You already are," he replied. And just like that, I knew. The worst truth was still waiting. I did not move. For a long moment, the room felt frozen in time, like even the air was holding its breath. "I'm not going anywhere," I repeated, my voice shaking but firm. He looked at me, then at the woman, then back at me again. His eyes softened just a little, but the pain behind them did not fade. "You don't understand," he said. "Whether you walk or not, You're already part of this. The woman stepped closer to me. You don't have to go with him, she said quickly. We can call someone. Security. The police. He let out a slow breath. I'm not here to hurt anyone. I looked at him carefully. For the first time, I noticed the deep lines on his face, the tiredness in his eyes. This was not a man driven only by anger. This was a man who had lived his whole life with a hole inside him. If you're not here to hurt anyone, I asked quietly, why does this feel like a threat? He looked away. Because the truth always feels like one, he said. He walked toward the door and opened it wide. Come, he said. I'll show you. The woman grabbed my arm. Please, she whispered. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. I closed my eyes. For 38 years, I had lived with questions I never asked. I had swallowed doubt and called it peace. If I walked away now, I would be doing the same thing again. I opened my eyes. I'll go, I said. The woman gasped. No. But not alone, I added, looking at her. You're coming too. She hesitated, then nodded slowly. We walked out of the office together. The hallway felt longer than before. Quieter. The bank no longer felt like a safe place. It felt like a doorway to something dark and unfinished. Outside, the sun was too bright. Too normal. His car was parked near the entrance. Old. Scratched. Nothing special about it. Get in, he said. As I sat in the back seat, my hands trembled in my lap. The woman sat beside me, clutching her bag like it was a shield. The car started. As we drove, memories flooded my mind. Every Tuesday evening. The same dinner time. The same quiet man sitting across from me. How long have you known? I asked suddenly. He glanced at me through the mirror. Known what? About me, I said. About him having a wife. Always, he replied. He told me early on. My heart ached. What did he say? That you were his safe place, he said. That he didn't deserve either of us. Tears filled my eyes. The car turned onto a narrow road. Trees lined both sides. The city slowly disappeared behind us. Where are we going? The woman asked. He did not answer. The road became rougher. Broken pavement. Fewer signs. Finally, we stopped in front of a tall metal gate. Beyond it stood a building. Gray. Silent. Forgotten. My breath caught. It was a care facility. An old one. This is where I grew up, he said quietly. I stared at the building, my chest tight. And every Tuesday, he continued, after the bank, he came here. I shook my head. I thought he never saw you. He looked back at me. He didn't see me, he said. He watched. The gate creaked open. Inside, the building smelled like disinfectant and old walls. The floors were worn. The lights dim. We walked down a long corridor. He never came inside my room, he said. He stood at the end of the hall. Every time. My heart broke with every step. There, he said, stopping in front of a closed door. This was my room. The woman covered her mouth. He opened the door. Inside was emptiness. A small bed. A cracked mirror. A narrow window. He stood there, he said, pointing to the doorway. Every Tuesday. Watching me breathe. I whispered. Why didn't he come in? He laughed softly. Because if he touched me, he would have to admit I was real. I walked toward the window. Outside, weeds had grown tall. Time had moved on, but the pain stayed. There's more, he said. He reached under the bed and pulled out a box. My heart stopped. It was the same kind of box I had found at home. Inside were photographs. Me. My husband. Our house. Our life. I stared at them in horror. He watched you too, he said. From a distance. 4 years. The woman cried out. That's not right. He wanted to know what kind of life he had chosen instead of me, he said. I felt dizzy. Why are you showing me this now? He met my eyes. Because he left something unfinished, he said. What? I asked. He pulled out a final document. A letter. Addressed to me. My name written in my husband's handwriting. He asked me to give you this if anything ever happened to him, he said. My hands shook as I took it. I opened the letter. The first line made my breath catch. If you are reading this, it means I ran out of Tuesdays. Tears blurred my vision. Before I could read more, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Fast. Heavy. The woman looked up in fear. We're not alone, she whispered. Someone else was here. And suddenly, I understood. My husband's secret was not just a story of guilt. It was a story someone else had been waiting to finish. The footsteps grew louder. Not rushed. Not panicked. Measured. Like whoever was walking toward us knew exactly where we were going to be. I froze, the letter trembling in my hands. The words, I ran out of Tuesdays, echoed in my mind like a bell that would not stop ringing. Who else knows about this place? I whispered. He stiffened. No one was supposed to. The woman grabbed my arm. We need to leave. Now. But before anyone could move, a voice filled the hallway. I wondered how long it would take. It was a man's voice. Older. Cold. Calm in a way that made my skin crawl. A figure appeared at the end of the corridor. He wore a dark coat and walked with slow confidence, like he owned the building. You shouldn't be here, the woman said sharply. The man smiled. Neither should you. He turned his gaze to me. And you, he added, studying my face. You finally showed up. My heart pounded. Do I know you? No, he replied. But I know you. That answer terrified me more than anything else so far. He stepped closer. I knew your husband. The room seemed to tilt. How? I asked. He chuckled softly. I was the one who made sure the money kept flowing. I looked at the man beside me. You said the bank. The bank was only part of it, the stranger interrupted. There were other arrangements. Other accounts. My stomach twisted. What kind of arrangements? He leaned against the wall, crossing his arms. The kind that keep secrets buried. The man beside me clenched his fists. You promised you would stay out of this. I promised him, the stranger corrected. Not you. My chest tightened. Promised my husband what? The stranger's eyes darkened. That I would make sure the past never came knocking on his door. Silence fell heavy between us. And did you? I asked. For a while, he said. But debts don't disappear when people die. I felt sick. Debts. The stranger nodded toward the man standing next to me. He was one. Anger flashed across his face. I was a child. Yes, the stranger said coldly. And children grow into problems. Stop, I cried. You're talking about a human being. He smiled thinly. Everything is business if you look at it long enough. The woman stepped forward. You need to leave. Right now. He laughed. After all this time? No. I've been waiting. Waiting for what? I demanded. For her, he said, pointing at me. My blood ran cold. Why me? I asked. He took a slow step closer. Because your husband made one final request. My breath caught. What request? He reached into his coat and pulled out a folder. He wanted to make things right, the stranger said. In his own way. The man beside me snapped. You said you wouldn't involve her. The stranger shrugged. He changed his mind. I shook my head. You're lying. The stranger opened the folder and held it out. Inside were legal papers. My name printed clearly at the top. My legs nearly gave out. What is this? I whispered. A transfer, he replied. Property. Money. Responsibility. Responsibility for what? I asked. For him, the stranger said calmly, nodding toward the man beside me. The room went silent. You mean me? He asked quietly. Yes, the stranger said. Your father wanted her to decide what happens next. I stared at the papers, then at the man who shared my husband's face. He wanted me to choose? I asked. The stranger nodded. He believed you were the only one strong enough. Tears streamed down my face. Strong enough to do what? To forgive, he said. Or to walk away. The woman whispered. This isn't fair. No, the stranger agreed. But it's honest. I looked down at the letter in my hands. My husband's handwriting felt like a ghost pressing against my skin. I haven't even read it, I said. Read it, the stranger replied. Out loud. My voice shook as I unfolded the letter. If you are reading this, it means I ran out of Tuesdays. I was a coward in many ways, but I tried to be faithful to my guilt. I know I do not deserve forgiveness, but I am asking anyway. Please do not punish him for my failures. If anyone can decide what comes next, it is you. I broke down. I never asked for this, I sobbed. I know, the man beside me said softly. Neither did I. The stranger straightened. So now you understand why you were warned. Warned by who? I asked. The woman answered quietly. By me. I turned to her. Why? She swallowed. Because once you choose, there's no turning back. What choice? I asked. She looked at me with sad eyes. To tell the truth, she said. Or to bury it like he did. The stranger checked his watch. Take your time. But not too much. Why? I asked. He smiled without warmth. Because someone else is coming, he said. And they don't care about forgiveness. Footsteps echoed again in the distance. This time, more than one pair. And I realized with growing terror. My husband's secret had grown bigger than all of us. The footsteps multiplied. 2. Then 3. Then many. They echoed through the long hallway like a slow drumbeat, each step pressing harder against my chest. The sound did not rush. It advanced with patience, with certainty. Like whoever was coming knew we had nowhere to run. The stranger closed his folder and slipped it back into his coat. They're early, he muttered. The woman's face drained of color. You said we had time. I said we had some time, he replied coldly. I clutched the letter to my chest. My mind was spinning, my heart racing, my breath shallow. Too much had been revealed too fast. And yet I still felt like I was standing at the edge of something even darker. Who are they? I asked. The man beside me, my husband's son, answered before anyone else could. People who believe money buys silence forever, he said. The footsteps stopped. Silence fell so suddenly it felt louder than noise. Then a voice called out from the hallway. We know you're in there. It was a woman's voice this time. Calm. Sharp. Confident. The stranger sighed. That would be her. Her. I whispered. She handled the long-term arrangements, he said. After the bank. After the facility. My stomach twisted. Arrangements for what? For keeping the past contained, he replied. The woman next to me stepped closer. This is getting out of control. The door creaked open slowly. A woman walked in. She was well dressed. Clean. Polished. The kind of woman who looked like she belonged in boardrooms, not abandoned care facilities. Her eyes scanned the room and landed on me immediately. She smiled. So, she said. This is her. I felt exposed. Like she could see every fear written on my face. Yes, the stranger said. She's here. The woman's smile widened. I didn't think she would actually come. I was warned, I said quietly. Yes, the woman replied. And yet, curiosity won. I came for answers, I said. You came for closure, she corrected. Those are very different things. She turned to the man beside me. And you, she said, studying him. You've grown. He said nothing. His jaw was tight, his fists clenched. You should not be here, the woman said to him. You were never part of the plan. I was the reason for it, he replied. She shrugged. Same difference. Anger flared inside me. You talk about people like they are objects. She looked at me calmly. People become objects when secrets cost money. I stepped forward. My husband is dead. What more do you want? Her eyes softened. Just a little. Resolution. For who? I asked. For everyone still breathing, she said. She reached into her bag and pulled out another envelope. This one was sealed. This was meant for you, she said, handing it to me. I stared at it. Another letter? No, she said. A condition. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a document. A confession. Signed by my husband. My heart dropped. What is this? I whispered. His final insurance, she said. A full written account of what happened before you met him. I looked up. Why didn't he give this to the police? Because the truth doesn't just destroy the guilty, she replied. It destroys everyone nearby. The man beside me leaned forward. What does it say? She looked at him. That he didn't just abandon your mother. My breath caught. That he was told to, she continued. By someone more powerful than he was. The room spun. Who? I demanded. She glanced at the stranger. He looked away. My heart pounded. You. He nodded slowly. I connected him to people who could make his problem disappear. You mean make me disappear? The man snapped. No, the stranger replied. We made sure you stayed alive. That's not mercy, he said bitterly. The woman stepped closer to me. Your husband tried to undo it. How? I asked. By documenting everything, she said. Names, dates, payments. I felt dizzy. And this confession? If released, she said, it would expose people who don't like being exposed. Fear crawled up my spine. So why give it to me? She looked straight into my eyes. Because he trusted you to choose, she said. Silence, or truth. The woman beside me whispered, if you release it, people will come after you. The man beside me said quietly, if you don't, they'll keep doing this to someone else. My chest tightened. I looked at the confession, then at the letter, then at the faces around me. My husband had spent 38 years paying for one mistake. And now, he had left me with the final payment. The woman spoke again. You don't have to decide now, she said. But understand this. She leaned closer. Whatever you choose, someone will lose everything. The building creaked as if it were listening. And I realized. This story was no longer about the past. It was about what I would do next. The room felt smaller than before. Not because the walls had moved, but because the truth had nowhere left to hide. I sat down slowly, the confession papers trembling in my hands. The weight of them felt heavier than any box or key or letter I had touched since his death. These pages were not just ink and signatures. They were lives, choices, consequences. I need time, I said. The woman in the sharp suit tilted her head. Time is expensive. The man beside me, my husband's son, said quietly. So is silence. The stranger checked his watch again, his jaw tight. You have more time than most people get in situations like this. That's not comforting, I said. He did not reply. I looked down at the confession again. My husband's handwriting filled the pages. I knew every curve of his letters, every way he crossed his T. I had seen it on grocery lists, birthday cards, small notes left on the fridge. This handwriting had once meant safety. Now it meant danger. I began to read. He wrote about fear. About being young and desperate and easily influenced by men who spoke softly and promised solutions. He wrote about how they told him the woman he loved, my future self, would never forgive him if she knew. They told me silence would protect you, he wrote. They lied. Tears blurred my vision. He described the first payment. The first Tuesday. How his hands shook so badly he could barely sign his name. How he vomited in the parking lot afterward. How he went home and smiled at me like nothing had happened. I felt sick. He came home and kissed me, I whispered aloud, more to myself than anyone else. I remember that night. The man beside me stiffened. He never missed a Tuesday after that, I continued reading. Not because he was ordered to, but because guilt became the only thing that gave his life meaning. The woman in the suit crossed her arms. He dramatized things. I looked up sharply. You reduced people to numbers. She met my gaze without flinching. Someone had to. I stood up, anger rising in my chest. No. Someone chose to. The stranger stepped between us. This isn't helping. Nothing about this helps, I snapped. I turned to the man beside me. Did you ever see him? I asked softly. He nodded. Every week. But you never spoke? He never let himself, he replied. If he spoke, he would have to explain why he left. My heart broke all over again. I walked to the cracked mirror on the wall and stared at my reflection. The woman looking back at me was older, tired, but she was also awake in a way she had never been before. I believed I had a simple life, I said quietly. I believed love meant peace. The woman in the suit replied, love often means compromise. No, I said, turning back to her. Love means responsibility. Silence fell. The footsteps from earlier echoed faintly again in the distance. Closer this time. They're not waiting anymore, the stranger said. Who are they? I asked. He hesitated. People whose names are in that confession, he said. People who have lost sleep wondering if your husband talked. The man beside me stepped forward. Then let them be afraid. The woman in the suit smiled thinly. Fear makes people dangerous. Truth makes them accountable, I replied. She studied me carefully. You sound like you've made up your mind. I haven't, I said honestly. But I know what I won't do. And what's that? She asked. I won't protect lies, I said. The man beside me let out a breath he had been holding for years. The woman's smile disappeared. You think exposing this will bring peace? She asked. It won't bring your husband back. It won't erase his absence from my client's life. No, I agreed. But it might stop someone else from paying for silence for 38 years. The stranger rubbed his face. You don't understand how deep this goes. Then it's time I did, I said. I folded the confession carefully and placed it back in the folder. I want copies, I said. All of it. The woman in the suit stiffened. That wasn't part of the agreement. I'm rewriting the agreement, I said. She laughed softly. You have no leverage. I looked at the man beside me. Yes, I do, I said. I turned back to her. He does. The room went quiet. The woman's eyes narrowed. You would involve him? He's been involved his entire life, I replied. The footsteps outside stopped again. Then a new sound. A phone vibrating. The stranger looked at his screen and went pale. They're here, he said. Where? I asked. Outside, he replied. And they brought someone with them. Who? I demanded. He looked at the man beside me. Someone who knew your mother, he said. The man's face drained of color. Alive, he whispered. The stranger nodded. The woman in the suit whispered. That changes everything. My heart pounded. The past wasn't done with us. It was walking toward us. And suddenly, the choice I thought I had time to make was about to be made for me. The room went completely still. No one spoke. No one moved. The words, "someone who knew your mother," hung in the air like smoke after a fire. The man beside me, my husband's son, looked like all the strength had drained out of him at once. His shoulders sagged. His jaw trembled. "She's dead," he said quietly. "I was told she died." The stranger shook his head slowly. "She disappeared. There's a difference." The woman in the suit closed her eyes for a moment, as if she had just lost control of something she thought she owned. "This was not supposed to happen," she muttered. I felt my heart begin to race. "You knew she was alive," I said to her. She opened her eyes and looked at me. "I suspected." "You let him believe she was dead," I said, my voice shaking with anger. She did not deny it. "Sometimes," she said calmly, "hope causes more damage than truth." The man beside me let out a broken laugh. "So my entire life was a lie built to keep things quiet?" "Yes," she replied. "And it worked. Until now." Footsteps approached again, closer than before. Then voices. Muffled. Urgent. A door slammed somewhere in the building. "They shouldn't be here," the stranger said sharply. "This place was supposed to be sealed." The woman beside me, the one who had warned me, grabbed my arm. "Whatever happens next, stay close to me." I nodded, even though my legs felt weak. Then the door opened. Two men stepped in first. Both wore dark coats. Both had eyes that scanned the room like they were counting threats. And between them was a woman. She was thin. Older than I expected. Her hair was streaked with gray, pulled back tightly like she didn't trust it to stay in place. Her hands shook slightly as she walked. But when her eyes landed on the man beside me, she stopped. Her breath caught. "My son," she whispered. The sound that came out of him was not a word. It was a gasp. A broken sound pulled from somewhere deep inside his chest. "Mom," he whispered. She pushed past the men and rushed forward. They did not stop her. She reached him and cupped his face with trembling hands, like she was afraid he might disappear if she blinked. "I never stopped looking for you," she cried. "Never." He stood frozen for a second, then collapsed into her arms. I turned away, tears streaming down my face. This moment was too raw, too sacred. Behind me, the woman in the suit looked shaken for the first time. "This complicates matters," she said quietly. "No," I said, turning back to her. "This ends them." She met my eyes. "You don't know what you're saying." "I do," I replied. "You stole a mother from her child to protect powerful people." The older woman looked up at me through tears. "You're his wife," she said softly. I nodded. She swallowed. "He tried to save us." My heart shattered. "He paid every week," she continued. "He made sure I had treatment. He made sure my son lived." "Why did you disappear?" I asked gently. She looked down. "They told me if I stayed, my son would vanish." I believed them. The man beside me clenched his fists. "So they controlled all of us." "Yes," she whispered. The stranger stepped forward. "This reunion changes nothing. The documents change everything," I interrupted. The woman in the suit snapped. "Enough." She turned to the men behind her. "Get them out of here." They did not move. Instead, one of them spoke. "We weren't sent to remove anyone," he said. "We were sent to observe." Her face went pale. "By who?" He looked at me. "By people who are very interested in what she decides to do next." My heart pounded. I looked at the man beside me, then at his mother, then at the confession folder in my hands. "I will not be quiet," I said firmly. The woman in the suit stepped closer. "You don't understand the danger you're inviting." I've lived with danger for 38 years without knowing it, I replied. I'm done pretending. She lowered her voice. If you release that confession, lives will be ruined. I met her gaze. Lives were already ruined. You just hid the damage. Silence filled the room. The older woman spoke again, her voice weak but steady. Tell the truth, she said. Even if it destroys what's left of us. The man beside me nodded. I agree. The stranger looked between us, his face tight. Once this starts, it won't stop. Good, I said. I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone. Everyone tensed. What are you doing? The woman in the suit demanded. I'm making copies, I said. Digital ones. You can't. I can, I interrupted. And I will. I pressed the screen. The upload began. A small bar appeared. 10%. 20. The woman in the suit lunged toward me, but one of the men stepped in front of her. That's far enough, he said. Her eyes filled with fury. This was not the plan, she hissed. I looked at her calmly. It never is. When the truth finally speaks. The progress bar climbed. 50%. 70. The man beside me squeezed his mother's hand. 90%. The stranger closed his eyes. And then. Upload complete. The room fell silent. I exhaled slowly. It's done, I said. The woman in the suit stared at me like I had just signed my own death sentence. You have no idea what you've started, she whispered. I met her gaze. Yes, I said. I do. Because for the first time since my husband's death, I was no longer living in the shadow of his Tuesdays. And I knew. Whatever came next would be louder than silence ever was. The first police car arrived before anyone was ready. Red and blue lights spilled through the cracked windows, flashing against the peeling walls of the old facility. The sound of sirens cut through the air, sharp and final, like a line being drawn between what had been hidden and what was about to be exposed. Everything moved fast after that. Too fast. Officers poured into the building. Voices overlapped. Questions came from every direction. Names were asked. Dates demanded. Phones confiscated. Statements recorded. I sat on a metal chair in the hallway, my hands folded tightly in my lap, watching the life I thought I knew break open in front of me. The woman in the suit was taken aside first. She tried to smile. Tried to stay calm. Tried to act like she was still in control. But I saw it. The tremor in her fingers. The way her eyes kept darting to her phone. The way she flinched every time someone said a name out loud. Power does not disappear quietly. It panics. The stranger was questioned next. His voice was steady, but his shoulders were slumped, like a man who had been carrying too much weight for too long and had finally put it down. I did what I was told, he said again and again. I followed instructions. I kept things running. One of the officers looked at him coldly. That doesn't make you innocent. No, he replied softly. It just makes me honest. Across the room, the man beside me, my husband's son, sat with his mother. She leaned against him, exhausted, like her body was finally giving in after years of fear. An officer knelt in front of her. Ma'am, we're going to need a full statement. She nodded slowly. I've been waiting to give it for decades. Her voice was quiet, but there was something unbreakable in it. I watched them and felt a strange mix of emotions twist inside me. Grief, anger, relief, guilt, all at once. An officer finally came to me. Ma'am, he said gently, we'll need you to come with us as well. I nodded. I expected that. As I stood, the man beside me looked up. Will they arrest her? No, the officer said. Not at this time. The man exhaled slowly. I followed the officer outside. The night air felt cold against my skin, sharp and real. Cameras flashed. Voices shouted questions. Is it true? Did he pay hush money? How long did this go on? Why didn't you speak sooner? I said nothing. I had been silent for 38 years without knowing it. I would not let them twist my words now. At the station, the hours blurred together. I told my story. About the Tuesdays. About the bank slips. About the key. About the letters. I talked until my throat burned and my head ached. And still, it felt like there was more to say. When they finally let me leave, dawn was breaking. The sky was pale gray, like it hadn't decided what it wanted to be yet. I drove home alone. The house greeted me with its familiar quiet. The same couch. The same table. The same cabinet where I had found the box. Nothing had changed. And yet everything had. I sat at the kitchen table and stared at the chair across from me. I could almost see him there, folding his hands, avoiding my eyes, carrying his guilt like a second skin. You should have trusted me, I whispered to the empty room. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. This is not over. My heart skipped. Before I could respond, another message came in. You released more than you know. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. A knock sounded at the door. I froze. Another knock. Slow. Firm. Intentional. I stood up slowly and walked toward the door, every nerve in my body screaming. I opened it just a crack. The man beside me from earlier stood there. Alone. I needed to see you, he said quietly. I opened the door fully. Is your mother okay? She's safe, he replied. For now. That word again. For now. He stepped inside and looked around the house. This is where he lived. Yes, I said. This is where he hid. He nodded. They're not done. The people named in that confession. Some of them are powerful. I know, I said. They'll come after you, he continued. After me. After my mother. I met his eyes. Then we don't hide. He hesitated. There's something else. My chest tightened. What? He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small flash drive. He gave this to me years ago, he said. Told me to keep it safe and never open it unless something happened to him. My heart pounded. What's on it? He swallowed. I don't know. I was afraid to look. I stared at the flash drive. Another secret. Another Tuesday. I took it from his hand. We open it together, I said. He nodded. Tomorrow. As he turned to leave, he paused. You didn't destroy my life, he said quietly. You gave it back to me. After he left, I locked the door and leaned against it, my heart racing. I looked down at the flash drive in my hand. Outside, a car passed slowly, its headlights lingering just a second too long. I pulled the curtains shut. Because I knew one thing for certain. The truth had come out. But the consequences were just beginning. I did not sleep that night. The flash drive sat on the kitchen table between 2 cups of untouched tea, like a small piece of plastic holding the power to ruin or redeem what was left of our lives. Every sound outside made me tense. Every passing car felt slower than it should be. When morning came, it came quietly. Too quietly. The man arrived just after sunrise. His face looked different in the daylight, older somehow, but lighter too, like he had finally stopped holding his breath. Did anyone follow me? He asked. I don't think so, I replied. But I don't trust that feeling anymore. We sat across from each other at the table where I had eaten breakfast with my husband for decades. The same table where lies had lived comfortably between us. I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. For a second, nothing happened. Then a folder appeared. One folder. Labeled simply, Tuesdays. My heart clenched. Inside were videos, audio files, scanned documents, names I recognized from the news, names I did not recognize at all, dates stretching back nearly 4 decades. "This is more than a confession," I whispered. He nodded. "It's a map." We opened the first video. My husband appeared on the screen. Older. Tired. Sitting alone in what looked like a storage room. He looked directly into the camera, like he knew one day I would be watching. "If you are seeing this," he said softly, "then I am gone." And I was too afraid to finish this myself. My hands flew to my mouth. I went to the bank every Tuesday because it was the only place I could still pretend this was under control, he continued. But the truth is, it stopped being about money a long time ago. He swallowed hard. I was documenting everything. Every payment. Every threat. Every name. The video ended. I broke down. Not the quiet kind of crying I had mastered over the years, but the loud, shaking kind. The kind that empties you out so something new can grow. "He was preparing," I said through tears. "All this time, he was preparing." "Yes," the man replied. "And he trusted you to finish it." By noon, the files were backed up in multiple places. By evening, lawyers were involved. By nightfall, journalists were calling. The story exploded. Headlines screamed about secret payments, powerful figures, decades of silence. Investigations were opened. Arrests followed. Names fell from grace one by one. People who once believed they were untouchable suddenly remembered what fear felt like. Through it all, I stayed quiet. Until one reporter asked me a simple question. "Why did you decide to tell the truth now?" I looked into the camera and said, "Because silence almost destroyed 3 lives. And it would have destroyed more if it continued." The man and his mother moved in with me for a while. Not because we were suddenly a family, but because healing sometimes needs witnesses. We talked late into the night. We argued. We cried. We remembered him differently. Not as a hero. Not as a villain. But as a flawed man who tried, too late, to do the right thing. One Tuesday morning, weeks later, I realized something. For the first time in 38 years. Tuesday felt like any other day. No secrets. No withdrawals. No silence being paid for. Just morning light through the window and a quiet cup of tea. I walked to the cabinet where I had found the metal box and removed it completely. I placed it in the trash. Some things are not meant to be kept. Before I end this story, let me say this to you. If you are watching this and you are carrying a secret that is eating you alive, if you are protecting silence that is hurting someone else, if you think it's too late to tell the truth, it's not. The truth may cost you comfort, but silence will cost you your soul. If this story touched you, please subscribe, like, and turn on notifications for more powerful real-life stories like this. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from, because stories like these remind us that none of us are truly alone. Thank you for listening. This was the story of a man who went to the bank every Tuesday for 38 years. And the truth that finally came out after his death.